Hello everyone. Today we are looking at a product that I created for the Unity game engine, and we're here inside of Unity, and I've created this little world to test things out in. And for this world I was playing around with AI, so I got that fantasy AI. If you look on the left hand lower corner, and I got that. It's free on the Unity Asset Store. So I wanted to play around with it, so I put some of my animals into this world and let them battle it out. So you're going to get to see some of that, but that's not part of the product here. So this was just something I was playing around with. But the actual product are snakes. So I had a client that asked me to make a specific snake, but then as I thought about it, I thought, well, why not make snakes, every snake, or at least the possibility for almost any snake. So I created a model that can morph into all these different shapes and create all these different snakes. But the only problem was that I was rescaling bones and everything, so I ended up having to make different packages for different snakes. Even though you can make, all of them are included in the one package, but then you could just get a cobra or just get a python or a rattlesnake. So there's a few options there. But we're going to look at the snakes in Unity now. So here we have a new scene. So I want to give you a look at the product without any extra items in the scene first, and show you everything that you get in the package. So I just have a Unity scene in here, that's it. It says Viper, but I just named it Viper. So here we'll get the whole Medhue snake package, and this is going to take a minute to load. This is a fairly large package, so it's going to take a little bit. But after you get the whole package in, you can decide which snakes you want to use and whatever else, and delete what you're not using. But it's a fairly large package, which includes every snake possible. I thought it was almost done loading. Here we go. So here we go. Medhue snakes. We have materials, morph animations, a couple of scripts to for the prefab AIs. And then we have all the snakes and a few sounds. So we'll look at the sounds real quick. There's a rattler sound, a few hisses, a strike, and like a splat for dying. The snakes. Well, we'll look at everything else first. So we have a few extra materials that aren't in the other material folders for each snake. And then we have a few morph animations. There's one with no morphing, and then there's a slither and a strike morph. So slithering has the skin moving back and forth, which I do with blend shapes, and the same thing with the strike. The strike has ones for its jaw, for its mouth. So the snakes, all of the snakes are in folders for each one. We have the main Medhue snake, and if we drop this down into the scene, then we can take a quick look at some of the morphing, some of the blend shapes. So I'll open up this tree in the hierarchy, select snake, and here with any of these, see we have anaconda, and he has an anaconda skin on. So there's the anaconda. The only thing is, when you are morphing, each snake has a different bone setup, at least for the head. So each one of the heads are a little bit different bone setup, so you don't get a totally accurate look at the head unless you have the bones, unless you're playing one of the animations for that. So this is an anaconda, and the anaconda uses the Python animation. So until I get the Python animation on the anaconda, I'm not going to know exactly what the head is going to look like. But another thing, I have some different materials for some of the snakes, and for the anaconda I have different materials for the eyes, because the eyes are just a little wacky. It's the shading that goes on in Unity. So if you're using a different shader, you're not going to have this problem. But I made a different material for the eyes, so the eyes could be seen better. But that's the basic look at the avatar and all the different blend shapes. So you could have, go to a cobra. And then the other thing, and like I said, until you get the bones on here, because this bone, one of the bones shortens the jaw, so that's why the jaw sticks out here. So let's do a different one. Let's do a king snake. And another thing you can do is you can morph between. So let's say you have your own snake in mind, and you could make your own texture for it or whatever. You could blend a couple of different shapes together. Of course, like I said, you would need to pick a bone or animation set that fits and makes your snake look perfect. But you could actually morph between some of the different heads. So let's say you like, see, a cobra is a bad one because that really flattens out the neck. So let's not do any of the cobra. And the king, that's up a bit high. Let's lower that. I want more of a viper type of head. But you always have to watch the neck whenever you're doing any of this, because each head makes the neck smaller, so you can get kind of strange looking heads. But that's a quick look at morphing, creating your own basic snake. But in each one of these packages, I have included some prefabs that you can easily just drop into your scene or use parts of. So I have made animation controllers too. So if I drop in an AI, so the AI has just the basic wandering script, and if I just play this, that snake will just move around with all the animations and everything. It's using the animation controller. And if I drop in a player, now I have a camera, and I play this. Now I can move around. Of course, I don't have any lights, so it's kind of hard to see. So now this snake can move around real easily. And it has a strike animation. And we have kind of the constrictor has a constricting animation. So that's just there. You can use it in any way that you want. But there's a strike, there's a jump. So you can jump in the air. And I'll give you a quick look at the animation controller. So let's... this is pretty complicated, but it kind of shows all the different animations that I'm giving for the snake. So if we go back to the anaconda uses the Python animation. So if I go to the Python, go to always the Medhue one, it holds all the animation. So if we look, we have all the same animation that matches up with the animation controller. But so it looks fairly complex, but that's what, I needed all these different controllers to make it all work. And if you drop one of these into your scene and use it, like the prefab player, then you're going to need all these buttons hooked up. Okay, so each one of these parameters hooks to a key on the keyboard. And if you go to Project Settings, Inputs, you would need to change some of these settings to reflect the parameters for everything to work. But if you have your own script and everything, then you can just pick apart this animation controller and only use the parts that you want to use. So now let's take a look at the snakes in a working kind of game scenario. So we go to our Medhue Snakes folder. We have all of our different snakes in here. And I just want to go over each snake real quick. So we already seen kind of the anaconda, so let's do a cobra, because the cobra's one of the most complex ones in here. And I'll drag in a player, so we have a camera in the scene. And maybe I'll lock on to that, and we will be a cobra. Now you'll notice that the cobra's hood, I used morphing animations to make the hood flex. So right now he's walking and his hood is pretty small, but when he goes into the idle, his hood flexes a bit. Okay, now if I strike, now his hood gets really big. Okay, now if I jump, the same thing happens. Now I don't have gravity's not working very well for me with this script, but that wasn't really important to me when I was making all this, though. So, but the hood here, you can see, and then if I press E, he hisses, plays a hissing animation, and his hood gets larger. But if I move, so kind of like a real cobra, the hood flexes. Oh, look at that. Alligator killed a dog. Bad alligator. But, so here's, so that's what happens with the hood, and I'll give you a quick look at the animation controller for this. So we have a normal animation controller like you saw with the anaconda, but then it also has, actually that's the wrong one. It also has a morphing layer. So in this morphing layer, we can see we have a hood idle, hood flex, hood bite, hood jump, hood walk, hood reduce. But all of that works together to make that hood flex in and out using the blend shapes that are created. So let's go back to the main layer and go back to game view. So that's a quick look at the Cobra, and like the Cobra has a player, it has a stationary one. So let's drag in a stationary one, and let's focus on this, and let's play the scene. Now I think it's facing a weird direction, and you would have to adjust the height, but that stationary one just sits there. It plays this whole set of animations. And if we look at, I think I can hear this Cobra idle. Yes. So if we look at this Cobra, and if I pick them in the hierarchy, where's my hierarchy? Cobra stationary. And we go here. Oh no, that's for the hissing. But you can see, oh, it's selected, so it's each animation is playing here, and it loops into another animation and then goes into our idle. So we're going idle, idle, hiss, and then strike. So it's just playing this in a loop. But of course you could have code that triggers it when someone comes by or whatever else is going on, you know. So, and then we have I don't have stationary ones for all the different snakes, but you can create them yourself, of course. And then I have a Cobra AI that you can drag in. Now this just has a basic wandering script. It's not very useful for a game right now in its current form, but it'll at least gives you something that you can create your own script from or whatever else. And if you look at him, he will play random animation and move randomly. And so I'll leave those two in the scene. I'll get rid of my player and we'll put in a different snake. So we have a coral snake, of course. That's a colorful snake. Prefabs. Put the coral snake in, raise him up a bit. Now it can be a coral snake. Open this up. Here we go. We can take a look at the cobra here, the stationary one. And his tongue flickering. Now he's hissing. Look at that. And I didn't connect sounds or anything to any of this, but you can do that with your own scripting. And Coral Snake has a strike animation. But let's see what else we got. We'll drop in a Coral AI so we can have a coral roaming around here. And I'll get rid of the coral player. We'll drop in... King Snake is very similar to the coral, so I won't really show that one. We have a black Mamba. So here we can, while we're at it, we'll drag in a Mamba AI. Play the scene. And our black Mamba, and he can move very quickly too. And if we wanted to, we could jump into a tree. Yeah, because my physics isn't working all that well. But that's a look at the Mamba. Here's some striking. And let's see, what else here? Let's get rid of the Mamba player. We'll drag in a Python. Python. We'll drag in a Python AI so that can roam around. We'll play this scene. Now we're a Python. Turning animation. We even have a strife animation. Of course, you can walk backwards and turn backwards. Okay, we'll bring in, get rid of the Python player. And we'll drag in a Rattler. So let's throw down a Rattler AI. The Rattler also has a coiled version, just like the stationary Cobra. There's a Rattler that's all balled up in a coil. So now we're a Rattler. So his animation is more suited towards a Rattler. He has a strike animation, of course. He also has a hissing animation where his jaw opens up. You can't really see that here. And of course he can jump just like all the other snakes. And the Rattler animation is very unique in that I had to create the Rattler, the rattle at his tail. So, and that Rattler, that rattle was difficult because I had to squish all the bones and then try and kind of form the rattle from what I had with all the other snakes without, making the Rattler really tiny compared to other snakes because he just doesn't have the length of his tail. But that's a quick look at the Rattler. But here's the Rattler all coiled up. Of course, I should probably lower him a bit, but he's all coiled up and striking. And I'd like to look at the AI a little bit, but we'll do that in a second. Now we have a Viper, so I'll just throw down some Viper AIs just because they're very colorful. Ooh, dragging it into the wrong scene. Here we go. So I'll just throw down a couple Viper AIs, and we'll take a look at them. So we're locked onto this Viper, and we'll just watch this Viper. Oops. Why am I not on him now? Well, let's just go with... There we go. So there's the AI just moving around using the animation in the animation controller. And he'll just do random things and move randomly around. If he pauses for a second, he could, if he waits long enough, he could strike. I don't know why he keeps moving backwards like this. But he'll just randomly roam around. Maybe we'll look at a different one. Maybe he's into a wall. That's the thing with this AI. They're not very smart. And I'm not a coder, so don't expect them to be smart. And the combat ones are very unique to watch, though. And this was kind of cool, and I'll kind of show this before we end. I just want to get it so you can see. And maybe we'll even maximize this and play it. So we'll kind of watch this snake move around. But that's the basic look at the snakes and what's possible with them. You get all the animation. You can buy different snakes, the different versions, or you could buy the whole package. They all should work fairly well. Sounds like a snake is fighting right now. Not the snake I'm using, though. Where is he? Here we go. Look at him. Chasing the deer. And he's chasing the deer into the other snakes. I don't know. To me, it's just crazy to watch all this happen. Oh, that deer is so dead. Oh, poor deer. Alright, so that's a quick look at the snake. Have a good one, everyone.